Good evening, everybody. This is streaming from Tokyo. My name is Sumiko Hatakeyama, and I'm a Peace Board staff member based here in Tokyo. So welcome, everybody, to The World is a Classroom Peace Board's Global University. This is part of Peace Board's global crowdfunding campaign that we are launching. We have began at the very beginning of this month. With the COVID-19 situation, Peace Board is currently having some financial difficulty, and we have opened this crowdfunding campaign to seek for your support. And today, with the theme of the Global University, we are going to present some of the education programs that we have offered throughout the years at Peace Board. And today's guests, we will have Kenro Oshidari, Linda Ann Blanchard, and Mario Gomez from different parts of the world. So please look forward to their participation today. Before we welcome the guest, I would like to have Akira Kawasaki, an executive committee member of Peace Board and director of Global University, to present about Peace Board's Global University first. So please welcome Akira to the event. Hi, Akira.
Hi, thank you very much, Sumiko. So, greetings from Tokyo. And as Akira, and as Sumiko introduced, I've been directing the program of Global University. As you may know, the Peace Board was founded in 1983. Since then, Peace Board itself has worked as a venue for peace education. Anybody can join. Anybody can enjoy the ship and the cruise in the way that they want to have. But so it's the ship itself is a very open space and providing opportunities for learning on world affairs. But as a very important element of the whole Peace Board project, Global University has served as a very unique student-oriented peace education forum, and that was started in the year 2000. And in the year 2014, we have developed a kind of a special program in a literally with a global nature, inviting students from all over the world, but with the focus of Asia Pacific countries.
So, and indeed, Akira, actually, today, as one of the guest speakers, Mario Gomez, he is one of the navigators, the guest lecturers who joined the very first English version of the Global University program. And
6 years ago.
6 years ago, indeed. And we will also have two participants from that very first program joining us later in the program. So we are very looking forward to having them with us.
Yeah, thank you. So, Sumiko, can you please share some photos of the Global University?
Yes.
So the ship itself is very big. We can have over 1,000 people at once, but we have a small classroom in there. And normally, one unit of Global University runs with about 30 students at once for 2 or 3 weeks intensively. And it's a combination of a classroom on board and exposure tour inland, and some action again back in the ship. And we've been working the themes around human security, social cohesion, or inclusive and peaceful societies. Kind of similar themes, but you know, for those who are familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, the Goal 16 for creating the peaceful and inclusive society has been one central pillar for Peace Board Global University to deal with. And in exploring those themes, we've been visiting various countries, mainly in Asia Pacific, like Sri Lanka, Burma, Myanmar, or Singapore, just like this photo, with a focus of transnational issues Like in the case of Singapore, we've been focusing on the migrant workers issues. And in the countries of Myanmar and Sri Lanka or Cambodia, just like this photo, we've studied about the post-conflict nation building or society building process with the very first-hand exchange and interaction with the local civil society groups. And we have a value of discussing with the local people and come back once getting back on the ship. We have a series of workshops and discussions. And what we have importance in this program is to do some output at the end of the program. The public report or some actions on board, because we have hundreds of people on the ship. So you can do some sort of public discussion or, debate, or taking questionnaire, or that kind of things. Dealing with social issues requires some action, So we have been always the action-oriented program. And luckily, we've been supported by various universities from the world, like Tokyo University on Foreign Studies from Japan, or Kyunghee University from South Korea, among those universities that officially accredited and provide some credit in our programs. So Peacebot itself is a purely non-governmental civil society actor, but in working with such academic institutions, we've been successfully having great students, and some of them will be speaking today. I'm very glad about that.
Yeah, thank you, Akira. It's true. You remember when we first started the program in 2014, I think we talked about, how we can have an education program which is not just, lecture-based, session-based, but really aiming at nurturing change makers. I think that was the beginning of our discussion. And as Akira explained, at Peacebot Global University, we have 3 pillars in the program. One is the exposure to local realities. Second is a discussion with people from different backgrounds about the kind of issues we've been exposed to at port. And finally, we always try to encourage students to take actions. There are all kinds of actions one can take if they want to create even small change in the society that we live in. So that's what we do at Peacebot Global University from our perspective. And now, actually, I would like to invite 3 former navigators. That's the term we use for guest lecturers for Peacebot Global University programs who have participated in a program before. So let's welcome Mario Gomez, and Kenro Oshidari, and Linda Ann Blanchard. Hello. It's a little bit like a mini reunion, although not everybody has been on board at the same time. And so I would like to hear from each of you about, how you got involved in Peacebot, how you found your experience being a navigator of Peacebot Global University. So if you could briefly introduce who you are and what's your background, how you got involved in the program, and how you found the experience of Peacebot Global University, that would be excellent. Can we start with Mario?
Hello, how are you? And it's a pleasure to be on this conversation. I'm speaking to you from Colombo, Sri Lanka, where I work at the International Center for Ethnic Studies based in Colombo. My first voyage on Peacebot was in 2005, June, when a bunch of us sailed from Colombo to Aqaba in Jordan. And since then, I've been on the boat maybe about 8 or 9 times on 3 different ships. And participated both in the Global University program, but also as a guest educator in other voyages. In my lectures, I've focused largely on the Sri Lankan conflict and on the challenges that Sri Lanka has had. But I've also dealt with some other comparative experiences, looking at other multi-ethnic, multi-religious societies, and how those societies are also struggling to build peace in those countries.
Mhm.
One of my sort of recollections about the Global University Program was some of the role-playing exercises that we integrated into the Global University Program. So, for example, in one program, I asked participants to negotiate a constitution after the end of violent conflict in a
Actually, I
mythical
remember
society.
that very well.
Yeah. And so we had different groups coming with their different perspectives, trying to negotiate and argue and negotiate a constitution. Similarly, I think it was in 2014, we had participants from Myanmar, from the Philippines, and Sri Lanka talking about transitional justice and truth commissions, and trying to negotiate the establishment of a truth commission, again, in a multi-ethnic, divided, plural society, bringing the different perspectives together. And I think I was amazed by the maturity that a lot of the participants showed in terms of their negotiating skills and the experiences they brought. Here were a group of people with different experiences, some young, some old, working in different jobs and different occupations. But I think the level of interaction was just fascinating. It was always very powerful and energetic. And I think I just learned so much from those role plays. But I also wanted to flag two other issues, and these were two sort of port visits that we made. One was to Da Nang, where we visited a home that still suffered from the impact of Agent Orange that was used during the Vietnam War. And we were able to see children, talk to parents and their carers, and try to understand the horrific impacts of this method of warfare that was used maybe 20, 30 years ago. The other trip that came to my mind recently was a tour we did in Singapore, in Little India. This was soon after a riot in Little India. And we met with migrant workers, mainly from the construction industry. We engaged with a group that was running a soup kitchen and trying to help them in their daily activities. And this story came back to me when I was reading the accounts about Singapore recently during the pandemic, and how the virus had affected migrant workers and their places of residence. And so these were just two stories that came back to me. But I think, it's also not only been intellectual discussions, it's also been learning about culture, the arts and music from different countries. I remember international nights that Sri Lankans did many years ago, where we had to dance salsa on open deck, and sort of present different forms of dance as well. So yeah, I mean, I hope Peaceport is able to restart its voyages fairly soon. To me, I think it's a unique space. It's a space like no other. It's a space for dissent, engagement, debate. You can bring whatever viewpoint to the table, and you can talk to a variety of people about it. And in a sense, life never stops on the boat. From morning till evening, you're constantly having discussions, whether it's with hundreds of people in an auditorium, whether it's over coffee, or whether it's watching the sunset and talking about a variety of different things. And I think, in a post-COVID world, I think Peaceport would have an even more important role to play. I think one of the positive outcomes of this pandemic has been the solidarity that's been formed across the world. People are making connections like you and I, and people are connecting in different ways across different parts of the world. And I think Peaceport has a role to play in adding to that momentum in a post-COVID world. So, I do hope you will be able to resume your voyages and continue on your journey of international peace education. I'll pause there and let the others come in.
Great. Thank you so much, Mario. Akira, do you have any, recollection from the first voyage that,
Yes.
Mario joined, or any other voyages?
Yeah, the workshops that Mario mentioned about the constitution building and the post-conflict situation, and also the creation of the Truth Commission were the two and how to say, the most remarkable, workshops that in the history of Global University, and it's inspired us a lot, and we had a great, energetic discussion. And also, as Maria pointed out, that the learning we had in Singapore, it has a kind of a direct relation to what we are experiencing today under COVID-19. So in that sense, those who learned at the Episode Global University, including myself, has a lot to think over and a lot to do in this time of difficulties under this coronavirus.
Yeah, thank you. It's true, the simulation exercises that we've done on board, and also all the other kind of simulation exercises really have taught us and also the participants the importance of thinking about different perspectives and also what it means to actually implement some measures, not just talking about ideals, but what it takes to make things happen, and what are the stakes and what are some of the difficult things that it's very difficult to negotiate. So yeah, and again, also it also gives us a kind of understanding that, or kind of, perspective to remember that in this kind of situation, like COVID-19 situation, there are always vulnerable populations who are most affected, who are left behind. And that is also one of the valuable learning I myself have had over the past years. Thank you so much, Mario. We'll come back to you soon, but let's move to Kenro. Hi, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Are you joining us from Tokyo?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm joining from my home in Tokyo. Yeah, let me just briefly mention my background, and that is I'm now a retired man, but my background is United Nations World Food Program. So I come from more or less humanitarian emergency kind of background. I've worked many years in Africa and in Asia and also in Europe, but mostly in conflict areas or natural disaster areas, providing emergency assistance. The Global University, I joined 2016 and 2017, 2 years in a row. And even before we get on the boat, I think we have this interesting program of exposing participants to Tokyo or Osaka or wherever they get on, but not the usual place, right? I mean, they visit like homeless people, communities, or communities who are traditionally discriminated in the Japanese society. And the participants really get to go talk to them, meet them, and they spend about 2 days on these social exposure programs. Now, once on the boat, of course, like Mario said, there's so much diverse global issues that are discussed. But let me just tell you one that I remember very well, and that is Akira-san, through this thing about let's talk about the Japanese occupation and the confront women. And as you know, the participants, given the composition of the nationalities, which in my case, I've met people from mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, Philippines, Cambodia, Myanmar, etc., India. Given the compositions, these are pretty sensitive issues.
Very much, yes.
Controversial, could be. But what I was impressed is that the Global University does not hesitate throwing such issues or topic to young students, and they really discuss. And sometimes I saw them becoming a bit emotional, but they are very in a few days they're a very close group of friends, and I could see that it was stimulating their thoughts, and it went very well. So I really respect that kind of I don't know, braveness in terms of bringing in topics like that. The one other one that stuck to my mind is this was not arranged by Global University, but it was arranged by Peace Boat for all the passengers. And the participants of the Global University can, of course, attend many other seminars and lectures and all that. And it was about LGBT, right? And in front of many, many passengers and the participants, the Peace Boat staff, about 4 of them, they just sat there and then started talking about their own stories about their being LGBT. And it was remarkably open. And I was also in that session a bit surprised that in a cruise ship with all the passengers of whatever nationality, mostly Japanese, but the Peace Boat staff would just come out openly and talk about these issues. It was really, really impressive, and it went extremely well. So not just the Global University, I think the participants of the Global University, but also passengers, they live in this sort of moving village, floating village, in a remarkably open environment. And so I think this is one of the unique thing about Peace Boat. And of course, the participants of the global universities, they engage with other passengers. They interview them, they do advocacy work on environment, about whatever they choose to make it a project. And I find that really incredible. I'm sure, although it's not a long program, like 10 days maybe.
Yeah, it's about 2 to 3 weeks usually.
I think the participants really go home taking a very unique learning experience, and more than anything, a very long-lasting friendship amongst themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Akira, any comments?
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you, Karen-san, for introducing that fact Peace Boat Global University, or Peace Boat itself, are dealing with difficult, sometimes controversial questions. And that's, in our process of this program, one important learning for ourselves is that we really have to make the space being safe for everybody, So the creating safe space, or the space that each one of them can feel safe, is the starting point for any deep discussion on social, political, or private affairs, So without making that kind of atmosphere, you can't really go into the depths of the difficult question. But, as the mission of Peace Boat is to make the world a better place. So those kind of atmosphere setting is something that we are really paying attention to. But I'm not saying that we have been always successful. We do have some lessons that in some situation, students from a minority group, socially or politically, have had a very bad experience or bad feeling and so on. We have been always learning, but it's our culture of Peace Boat. And I can say for sure that the cruise ship on sailing slowly on the ocean is very good venue to make such kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, thank you, Kenro-san. And I'm sure, I think some of the former participants who will join us later in this show, they will also be able to, attest to the fact that they've developed some really long-lasting friendship and also some ability to kind of open up to each other and share personal stories, which sometimes touch upon quite sensitive issues. But yeah, thank you so much. And Linda, can I invite you to share your experience being a navigator? And I recall you and Kenro met on one of the global university programs that was in 2016, if I'm right.
That's right, Sumiko. Thank you, and thank you to Akira. Good to see you all, and Kenro. Good to see you again and meet you, Mario, for the first time. As Sumiko said, I've been involved with Peace Boat 2016 Global University, but actually I teach in peace studies at Sydney University and do research there as well, and at the National University of Timor-Leste. And I was involved in the Peace Boat in about 2005, if I recall. Was my first experience on the Peace Boat. And that for me was a real seminal experience. And I started to think about, well, what the Peace Boat's doing here. In fact, that year, I've got 2 postcards here on my desk. One is the Peace Boat. Whoa, probably from 2005, not sure. And the other one is Rovereto Peace Bell. And I went to involved in these 2 places at the same time. This Peace Bell is the International University for the People's Institutes for Peace. And this Peace Boat, for me, seemed to be forging new directions in putting tourism and peace together, making tourism a social force for peace. And this was really new in the academic literature for a start. And so that was very inspiring for me to be involved in the Peace Boat in 2005. Since then, we've worked together on running conferences and, organising books delivery to Timor-Leste and all kinds of fun activities. But one of the special projects that I've been really keenly involved in is also the Global University. And for me, the Global University, the idea, the vision for it is like an umbrella so that universities all around the world from any faculty, any discipline can come together in Global University and share whatever academic backgrounds they're coming from, whatever country, whatever geopolitical context. You can share your learning with activists and NGO representatives from the field. And at the heart of the Global University, I remember speaking with Akira very early on about it, is for me the idea of an active civil society to promote human rights, non-violence, and peace with justice. So there's a heart to the Global University, which is action-based, as Akira mentioned earlier. And it's that activism that I think sets the Global University apart from maybe other university programs. This kind of, there's a sense of action involved in its activities. So yeah, that's two kind of aspects for me that are really important. The interdisciplinarity and intergeopolitics of bringing people together from diverse interests, backgrounds, and geographical location to share and dialogue about how to create civil society in terms of promoting human rights, non-violence, and peace with justice. I think that in itself is a kind of radical pedagogy of peace education. And I think that is, you know, a really important and unique aspect of Peace Boat's work. And that radical pedagogy is hinged around the 3 pillars that you've spoken of: the onboard lectures together with the exposure tours, the going out and meeting community, and the third aspect of action, having some kind of action built into the themes that you're discussing on board the boat. But the other 2 characteristics that make this a radical pedagogy at Global University, I think, is what Mario said about the creativity, poetry, music. There's all of this going on board the boat, and the Global University students can meet with Japanese poets, calligraphy writers, and join in the conversations with them. There's a very creative kind of component to the activity on the boat. And then what Kenro was talking about, having safe places to discuss really difficult and complicated problems and social issues. And, you know, places. In that first visit to the Peace Boat in 2005, I joined an Unlearning Racism lecture by a Kuri colleague here from Australia. A very difficult, concepts and workshops, but within the safe place of the Peace Boat, people were able to share their experiences of racism and so forth and so on. So I think that safety is also a big part of this kind of radical pedagogy. So it culminates, for example, in one exposure tour in 2016, which stays with me. And I remember very clearly visiting the Indigenous community in Taiwan and being hosted by this fabulous, generous community. We were hosted in terms of being fed food from the gardens that they grew. We were hosted in terms of sharing in their creativity and cultural practices, as you can see on the screen. But the Amis people also enabled a safe place for us to talk about the relations, the geopolitical relationships and internal struggles that they have as Indigenous communities to identity and belonging. And one poignant moment was the sharing of one of the Japanese students. I partly remembered this because it was my father's birthday, and one of the elders in the community was talking about his treatment during the war. And I was thinking, I'd already spoken to him and given him a gift to say, look, it's my father's birthday, I'd love you to have this gift. And then he spoke about this experience after dinner, and one of the Japanese students said, my grandfather was involved in this war. And the sharing of this poignant moment of pain and courage was a very, very telling active learning. It's not completely impossible in the classroom of a university, but it's not. It's rare. It's more rare. And on the Peace Boat, it's almost the pumping heart of the Global University. These conversations, this learning in third spaces that is created by the Peace Boat milieu is, I think, unique. And I think it's a fantastic learning. And I think people take it with them and take it with them for life. I must be out of my 5 minutes by now. Thank you. I hope that's what you wanted me to talk about.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Akira, do you also remember visiting the Amis community in Taiwan?
Yes, of course. It was very special moment for us. And, actually, Linda and I have been, I think we first met over 15 years ago. And then Linda knows, at the very early stage of Peaceworld Global University, and as she studies and teaches the peace through tourism kind of concept. And Linda mentioned about the Peaceworld as a kind of radical pedagogy. But, Linda has been always the one who inspired me or, think over the Peaceworld methodology and pedagogy, and in what form we can present the best, produce the best outcome from the process. So I think we've been talking always once or twice a year. So that process has been very, very essential in developing this process. At this occasion, let me express my warm thanks to you. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you so much, Mario, Kenro, and Linda. So we'll come back to you at the very end of the event. But now I would like to invite some former participants of Global University to join the conversation. And in fact, I would like to invite first Yo from Singapore and Marina from Japan, but not joining from Japan. So she'll tell us why too. And so Yo and Marina, hello.
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 Hi, guys. So my name is Yo, and I'm from Singapore, and I'm a Singaporean currently studying in Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, and that's where Marina is from as well. So both of us actually participated in the Peaceworld Global University program in 2017. And I think at that point of time, Kenro-san was one of our navigators on board the ship, and Akira-san was there with us as well. So today, both of us would just be sharing our experiences during the voyage in 2017. And allow me to start off by talking about the theme for that year, which, as Akira-san has mentioned, was about the SDG Goal 16, promoting peace, justice, and strong institutions. And our program was pretty unique in the sense that we managed to visit so many places. First of all, we started in Japan, then we went to Xiamen, China, we went back to Singapore, and then we finally ended off in Yangon, Myanmar. One thing that I think Marina and I both felt particularly impressed with the program was the diversity of participants. Unfortunately, we didn't have anyone from Australia and Sri Lanka. Apologies to Mario and Linda. But I think during our time, we had people from naturally Japan, South Korea, India, the Philippines, Myanmar, Cambodia, Brunei, and of course myself from Singapore. So at this point in time, and Taiwan as well. Yeah. So I think Marina will now be sharing her experience on Peaceworld first, and then I will wrap things up.
Yes. So I want to share 2 stories related to my interaction with other participants. So I was 18 when I was on board.
That's right. I remember that now.
Yes. So I was.
Is this from that time?
What did you say?
Yes.
Is this from the year you participated?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I was the youngest one, which means the one who has the least knowledge and experience. So I was often kind of overwhelmed and had this feeling that maybe it's not the right place for me to be. And so a lot of my peers kind of sensed it and came to talk to me after class at the end of the day when we would go out on a deck and to see sunset with a cup of coffee and cakes, as in the next slide. Yeah. Okay. Not that one. Okay, I did something wrong. But anyways, so one participant called Jason from South Korea was among them and gave me a lot of advices and encouragement. But the most unforgettable one was that don't be overwhelmed by a person that seems so perfect. The person in your perspective and in their own perspective should be different. we do have strengths that's visible to others, but we also have weaknesses and something you want to hide. So there's no point in comparing and blaming yourself. So this is so true. And this is actually one of the words that I need to come back to even today. And another time, that was after receiving certificates on our last day from Akira-san. Chetna from India came to me with cookies that she brought from India and said, study hard, help people, and stay healthy. Yeah, this is really like Chetna. But I think what she really meant here was, yes, that was a photo from after class. Yeah. So I think what she meant here was study hard to help people while staying healthy. And she was such a calm and relaxing character, but I knew that besides she was a PhD student, she was also a passionate activist, leading student union at JNU. Yes, often with bloody fights against university authority. So this word from her was so strong that makes me reflect on it whenever I can't decide like which way to go in life. So now I wish to be an anthropologist, in fact. But one thing that I'm sure about is that I want to do my research in order to consider how we can act, so based on action. So after all, I am so grateful for the special setting that made it possible to interact so closely and deeply, and while feeling safe with a bunch of those wonderful participants from all over the Pacific. So this is my story. I want to hear about your stories too, Yo.
Yeah, I think Marina brought up a very important point, which is the personal time we actually have outside of class. And I think one thing that everyone on board the ship would relate to would be how expensive Wi-Fi can be if you actually bother to purchase it. And so
you mean
that
the internet? Or
yes,
internet
correct,
on board?
the internet.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yes, I remember, yeah, I saw the price of it and I was like, I don't think I can afford that. But that actually allowed us, I guess, to detach from the digital world and really try to spend as much time as possible with each other on board ship. And I think that is where all these personal experiences that Marina got actually came from. I would like to try to talk about things from another perspective, which would be what I managed to experience related to the topic at hand of SDG Goal 16. So one of my experiences was actually with our navigators back then, Miss Kim Oma. She is actually an activist from Myanmar. And when I heard that she was going to be one of our navigators, I thought that having someone from Myanmar when we are going to visit Yangon would be invaluable because she could share with us her personal take on issues in the country. But when we reached the port of Singapore and when we were about to disembark for Yangon, I remember at the harbor I was asking her, "Oh, we are going to your country next," and she was like, "Yes." But next thing I knew was that she wasn't going to join us, and I found out that the reason why was because of her activism, and there were some issues such that she wasn't able to return to Myanmar at that point of time. I remember it was at night when the ship was leaving, and then we could actually see her at the port terminal and she was waving back to us. And I think that that was a very poignant moment for me, and I think many people who were waving back at her, because we could actually see firsthand how a person who has contributed so much to her country and what perhaps backlash she has faced from it. Yeah. And the second experience I'd like to talk about would be with a journalist from the Philippines. He actually shared with us during one of our onboard sessions about what happened in Marawi during the conflict back then. He actually told us that he was there when things got heated up, and he gave me permission to share this photo and the next one. So these are actually photos that he took when he was there, where a civilian got struck by a stray bullet. So this was actually a non-combatant who got hurt by a bullet that just came to him. And I think that this really struck me because here I am. I think that many of us who are relatively younger, still studying, we actually talk a lot about these issues of peace and conflict justice and how to build strong institutions. We read about it and we write so much about it. But this is actually someone who has actually gotten into the heat of things, and he actually managed to witness something like this, which perhaps to some people might actually be a traumatizing experience. And I think that my friend and I, he shared this thing with us, I really found a new respect for journalists, especially journalists who are covering issues such as this. And like Ken-Ro-san said, at the end of the day, after the voyage ended, we actually still kept in touch. And it's been 3 to 4 years since our voyage, and he's actually now helping out with the peace process with the government in Mindanao. So I'm very happy to see that he has actually continued on with his work in journalism, but now doing more of a collaborative effort with the government. And I think these two examples really tie in with what Sumiko mentioned earlier about one of the 3 pillars about having exposure to local realities. And these are the experiences that will always remain with me. And I encourage everyone to join one of these global university programs when, not if, but when the voyages resume, so that everyone can experience all these things personally. And I'm sure that everyone would be as deeply impacted as Marina and I.
Actually, I found this photo. Isn't this Omar?
Yes.
Yes.
At the very left.
Yes, correct. That's Kim Omar, yes.
This was what Yo was talking about just before this last episode about Darwin, the photojournalist.
Yes.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. It's almost emotional, isn't it, Akira?
Yeah, listening to Marina and Yo's stories, that I was remembering how we Peace Boat staff members were being amazed at the way that you students yourself talk to each other and makes community, and to teach to yourself, each other, and that kind of autonomous self-learning process has been so amazing to us. And I think that was one very unique characteristic of the learning on the ship.
Yeah, and people change a lot, like before and after the program. Discover about themselves. They, as Marina said, they learn about their strengths and weaknesses, and they learn how to deal with difficult situations, how to navigate, problems with people. And that transformation process is amazing. And even more to see people who take that with them and, excel in whatever they do afterwards. All right. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much, you and Marina.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon, I think. And now I would like to invite 2 other former participants of Peace Boat Global University. I will invite Ramzi and Mark. So Ramzi joining from Colombo, Sri Lanka, and Mark, where are you joining from? Where in the Philippines right now?
I am in the capital, in Manila.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I mean, I got a little bit too excited that you could join today, as you know. Please tell us about yourself and please share your stories.
Should I go first, Mark?
Yes, please.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Sumiko-san and Akira-san. I think it is always a privilege to come back to Peace Boat, and I think, like everyone said before, it is a unique experience, and people change after the trip and also after the program. I think I was one of the oldest members in the group, I guess, and it itself was a unique experience for me, because I think, like Dr. Mario said, you know, the peace sport, make you appreciate the time that you spend in the boat, like the discussions that you have, the fellowship you have, and everything that connects people together. So today I'd like to share a couple of things that maybe uh, that is so, I mean, very close to my heart, actually. And the number one thing is understanding different perspectives. As a peace builder, I think I've been working for about 13 years now. I had a set mindset when I came into peace board. I thought I knew stuff, you know. Um, I did, but I think what Peace Board did was sort of opened things further for me. I think I understood things on a wider perspective. I think there were a lot of simulation exercises, like exactly what Dr. Mario said. I think that really helped us to understand the diversity of the thought process. People think differently and people feel differently, and people have different perspectives on different issues, and that is important when it comes to peace building. You're not always right, and you're not always neutral. I understood that very deeply during my time in peer sport. And also, like, I we had an opportunity to go to Cambodia to visit the killing fields, and talk to people who survived the torture. That is that was shocking for me, because I've heard a lot about genocide and all that, but actually meeting a person who survived that was unique experience. And for me, I was I was at awe, like, throughout the session, trying to understand what I mean, who is this person, how did he survive, and how did he do it? Because even for me to look at the carnage was difficult, the bones and the it was difficult for me. So I think it was difficult for everyone who was there. So understanding different perspective, like I said, I think was one of the valuable takeaways for me. Another thing is very personal for me, is the time factor, valuing time. I'm always a person who gets late and do things on my own pace. But Peace Sport helped me to be a little bit more disciplined when it comes to valuing time. Because like Dr. Mario said, the sunsets and the sunrise, you value that. You value that time, when you are in the peace boat, and you value the time of fellowship, and you value the time that you spend in the boat, and it's going to end at some point, and you value every minute of the time that you spend in the boat. So and all the sessions and the timings, and I know, like, Sumiko-san is very hard on timing, but that helped me personally to be disciplined and to be committed. And I continued that. I think I learned a lot from that. And I'm still messy when it comes to time, but I think about peace sport when I want to get things done. So those are the two things for me that is close to me and close to my heart. Learning is invaluable, but those are the two things.
Thank you so much. Mark, do you want to jump in, including the reaction to what Ramsey just said at the very end?
Yeah. I totally agree with Ramsey. There's a lot of definitely stories that pops out to my head when I think of the program and look at the photos. A lot of things to laugh about, which I think leads me to. I think I have two things that really I still have after the program, which is the first one is connected to what Ramsey said, which is in a word, connection. Peace Boat, especially the Global University, is a space to connect. I think Io a while ago mentioned already that in the boat you don't have really a good connection, or you have an expensive connection to the rest of the world. We come from a internet generation, so it was a difficult to not get to know what's happening, not to be in connected to social media. But ironically, though, we I think we were more connected to the world because we were in a space where we don't have the internet, at least temporarily. We were separated, but because we were dealing with each other, engaging more time to engage with each other, we got to know more about the issues that of our home countries, of our own cultures, heritage, food. We shared food, remember?
Oh dear, yes, I remember.
So in that 15 days, I think we definitely learned a lot about ethnic conflicts. There's a lot of lessons inside. Mario's already mentioned a lot of lectures and the interesting and really great program inside. We learned about Tamils in Sinhala, the Rohingya, and surrounding religious issues in Bangladesh, the issues of ethnic conflict in Myanmar, migrant workers in Singapore, genocide in Cambodia, the legacy of World War II impacting the relations of Japan with its neighbors, etc. But I think we got to learn more about those things because we related to each other. There's a phase now when we talk about Cambodia or Sri Lanka. When we talk about Japan, we are looking at them in the face, and we are with them almost 24 hours really, and how their history and their culture shape this being in front of us is really helpful to build that connection. And I think that made all the difference to create really, at least for me, I really found siblings. I've kept in touch with Tevuni, with Ramsey, with everyone. I visited some of my Japanese siblings in Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka last year. And I think, and I was bawling so hard, I would admit, I was bawling so hard when we were about to say goodbye in Cambodia, because that really felt, I didn't expect it to find a family inside the program, but it did. And which is important, I think, with the next thing that I got from Peace Boat, which is the kind of peace building that is about relationship. And when I joined Peace Boat, I was starting with my work with an NGO working on peace building. And that program shaped the kind of peace building that I will do in the next years, which is a peace building that talks about neutrality in the sense that you have to take a side. You have to look at it from the point of view of those who are erased and marginalized. And that is who we are, basically, who participated in that program. We represented, for example, myself, the community that I belong with, Joseph, who come from Myanmar, and our siblings from Sri Lanka. And I came back 4 years after that program, and Peace Boat again shared their space with me, and I organized my own program, gathering community leaders from Aceh, from Myanmar. Some of them are Rohingya from other ethnic states in Myanmar, from Mindanao. So that kind of experience also shaped the kind of peace builder that I am, and that is what Peace Boat is to us: a home, a sanctuary, especially for those affected by conflict, silenced by repression, invisibilized by injustice. And it's difficult that Peace Boat is going through this now, and this is why I'd like to make a point that we still need Peace Boat. We still need this sanctuary, because we are facing a world that is going to get more difficult, and this safe space, the sanctuary it offers, is something that we really still badly need in the next years to come.
Thank you so much, Mark and Ramsey. Yeah, that particular program was very memorable for me too. And I remember a lot of things, including, asking Ramsey to be on time for every single session. But no, Mark, thank you so much. You made great points about, how Peace Boat is space for people who might not have space otherwise, or whose voices might not be heard otherwise. And I think that's great that you've highlighted that point. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both. Ramsey and Mark both have been very active in the peace building fields in your own country. And I think I remember at the time of the time that you joined Peace Boat, you have already, in part of such activities in your respective group. And in a sense, you've been leading the discussion in the group. But I do remember that the way you talk to other students, somewhat younger or very new to those kind of social and political issues, it have been really nice and really equally communicating and discussing with them. I really admire that kind of attitude, and I'm really proud that Peace Boat could create that kind of inclusive atmosphere. So one of the uniqueness of the history is that interaction with these practitioners like you and young students studying in a really equal standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I think it was definitely a unique experience.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a lot more to talk about, but an hour has passed like 2 seconds. And so thank you so much once again, Mark and Ramsey. Now I would like to invite the 3 navigators back on the stage and make final comments. Bye, Ramsey. Thank you, Mark. And welcome back. Mario, Kenro, Linda, welcome back. So how was it? So we don't have too much time left, but I do want to hear from you before we close, maybe a minute each, either, listening to other navigators sharing, or you can also comment on what the former participants just shared. If you can just, make some concluding remarks, it'll be great. Would you like to go ahead, Linda?
I can say, well, Sumiko, I was just so impressed that Mark and Ramsey shared their that idea of creating ethical and respectful relationships and in the learning environment with each other, and that is including in spaces that are difficult. So maybe, people on different sides of the story, different narratives to tell, but having a kind of respectful and creative relationship. And I think Ramsey said that, or maybe it was Mark, the kind of relationships that are created through peace building, that's indicative of what the Peace Boat represents. And I must say that the relationships the Peace Boat has created in all of the local communities with which they work, it's over generation now. It's over a generation that those relationships have been created with the Maui community in Vanuatu and so they're respectful and ethical relationships. And I think that's what peace research and peace education is basically all about. If you have your students giving you that kind of feedback, Global University is definitely on the right track. Boot camp timing and all.
Thank you, Linda. And I just saw a comment from Sunji. I think she's one of our former participants. I'm not sure whether she was a participant in 2016 or 2017, but here's a comment on YouTube from Sunji. She joined Peace Boat in 2016, and she then became an interpreter for Peace Boat, one of the Peace Boat Voyage, and then she also worked with the staff, and she's now studying in the UK, I believe. All right, nice to hear from other former students. Please make comments if any of the other former students are watching right now. All right, Kenro?
Yes, since you just mentioned Sunji, she just contacted me a while ago, and she is now working for the World Food Program in
Nepal. Oh, she is? Oh, excellent. Super.
Yeah.
That's great.
Although she's still at home, apparently, because of the COVID-19.
Sure.
So, the graduates, if I can say graduates, many are working in the peace area or development or human or these areas. So as we heard from the participants, they really developed very special relationship with each other. And but also from the navigators' point of view, it's extremely memorable experience. It's a real honor and pleasure to be part of this program. So I know it's really unfortunate that because of the COVID-19, it's been halted. I mean, the whole cruise and education opportunities also are halted now. But I just wish it resumes as soon as possible. And I know Akira-san, Sumiko-san, everybody in Head Peace Boat is working hard for that. But, pandemic is pandemic. There's not much we can do right now. But really, I very much support Peace Boat, and I hope many people around the world feels the same way. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kenro. Mario?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on the points that Ramzi made about the very humbling experience of meeting survivors of violence. People who've experienced extraordinary violence, but who have survived and still are very humble and are able to reach out to people without a sense of revenge. And I met survivors of the atomic bomb several times on the ship. And to me, again, that was a very humbling and moving experience. So I think that's something, quite sort of unique in a way to Peace Boat, the way it does this. Yeah. And maybe finally, in conclusion, at least in my case, I was invited to come on board to share my experiences, to share my knowledge. But I often left a voyage, I think, having learned much more than I actually shared. Because, even if you are 16, I think you can always teach somebody else a lesson. And I met people from 16 to 66. And I learned so much just from the engagement with the other passengers and the other people on board, including the Peace Boat staff. So yeah, thank you very much, and it's been a wonderful experience to reconnect with Peace Boat. Thank you.
It was a true pleasure. Thank you so much, Mario, Linda, and Kenro, and we'll see you very soon, and hopefully on another Peace Boat Global University program. Yes. All right, thank you so much. Bye. Bye.
And even without restarting the Peace Boat Global University physically, I think utilizing this kind of online platform, we will be able to organize some sort of learning venue. We will just not just wait. We'll continue to work. And these wonderful remarks by all the guest navigators and also the students reminded us about the real objective and the goals that we are working on. So I really want to express our warmest thanks to everyone.
Yes, really. Thank you so much for all the people who joined, all the people who watched us today. once again, let me just reiterate. And so we are in the middle of the global crowdfunding campaign. If you have some time to spare, we have a GoFundMe page. We also have Facebook for updates. We have different social media channels. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, Twitter. Please follow us for more updates. And in terms of events, we'll have a couple of more events coming in the next week. And on August 25, we will have Around the World with Peace Boat, next of port of call Latin America, one each in English and Spanish. On August 26, Journey with Hibakusha, the role of survivors in banning nuclear weapons. August 27, we will have Traveling the World with Peace Boat, making a positive change through music and art. So all these events are coming up, so please stay tuned. Again, for updates, please follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right. So thank you so much, Akira-2. Do you have any final remarks? All right. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us. We will see you at that next event. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.